And we're recording. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
So
Good to see you.
good
First
to
time
see
on.
you too, especially in that jersey.
Oh, dude, it's my longtime Bucks jersey, dude.
For those that are just listening to this,
It's
he's wearing.
2002.
So the Bucks go to the Super Bowl now, which is awesome. He's wearing a Patriots jersey with some duct tape and the word Buccaneers written on it in Sharpie.
I even spelled it wrong.
You
I was
did.
like,
You're missing a
oh,
C.
Bucks. I spelled it one C, then I looked it up. Yeah. So,
We still add the little C on top there, like proper correction should be.
yep, yep. You gotta get it right. So
You've got like
you
future
can't be a
career in
true
copywriting.
bandwagon fan without it.
Because the
Yeah.
first thing I did when they won, like my brother wearing a jersey, I'm like, hey, I need to borrow that for a photo real quick. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon.
Dude, I bought this jersey. Actually, my buddy bought me this jersey because I'm a big Tom Brady fan more than like a Patriots fan, and I know greatness when I see it. And Tom Brady,
Oh, you
really
called this
great.
one? Yeah, you called
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
I
no
don't.
debate. He's the greatest.
It's
So
working out. If he
yeah,
goes to Tampa in like the first season and brings home a Super Bowl ring, like at that point, I'm not gonna argue
43
it
years old.
anymore.
Too. Yeah,
Yeah. At that point, I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's a case here, and part of that's probably because it's a Florida team, and I'm not ashamed of that.
no,
Yeah,
I
I'm a sellout quick when it brings glory to Florida.
I hop on bandwagons any day. I'm actually a Cleveland fan, so I mean I'll hop on like players, even though
Yeah.
I don't really like LeBron. I'm like, yeah, he won us a Cavs championship, but nobody's a Cavs fan in Cleveland. Like they're all right, but
I'll
they're
be
mostly wanting the Browns win. So
I'll
that's why
be
I'm wearing the
honest.
hat.
I'm
So
a casual sports fan for anything. Like if Florida ends up winning something, like I don't care about hockey, but
celebrating.
I love Lightning. Yeah.
There
Listen,
you go.
If Florida's involved, then it's good. If it's a headline that involves Florida and the word like man and something embarrassing is not after it, I am all about it.
I'm all about the embarrassing stuff. I live it.
Dude, we
Live it.
we share headlines back and forth. They're like, all right, Florida, what you got? And I go through my list of headlines. Someone tagged me, and then I'm like, all right, here we go. Here's this one. There's that guy that
Yep.
dressed up as the Reaper walking around the beach trying to get people to leave.
Exactly.
This guy.
Good. I love Florida. I mean my Cleveland home. Well, my Cleveland team. I wouldn't call it my home. It's my dad's home. And I took on the Cleveland underdog team. So
So I got
Florida for life.
Miami for my
So
dad. Yeah, I got Miami
yeah,
for my dad. So I'm a casual fan, but
yeah,
if they're doing well, I'll pay attention. If they're not, I just assume it's just par for the course, and that's how it is.
yeah. So
So I get nice surprises too. I had no idea that Tampa was doing good at all until next thing you know, they're playing the Packers for the Super Bowl spot, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pay attention now.
you're a
I'm on
fan in
board.
January. That's when you're a fan.
That's
That's
when it
right.
matters. That's when it matters. When they're really need my support.
So, but well, thanks for having me on, yo. I know I'm supporting my teams here, but I've been supporting the Libertarian team for a while now. Because I cannot stand what's going on.
And that's
Cannot
the big reason I
stand it.
wanted to have you on. Cause like I was thinking about like, cause I kind of tuned out to politics for most of the new year up until, the Capitol building riot. And it's like before that, I was just like, I need a break. Okay. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna, tune out for a little bit. Then that happened. I plugged back in. But then the absurdity after all of that happened, like we were talking about before we hit record, it's just
yeah,
like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, there needs to be, because all we're seeing is the tribal politics. It's just right back at it. You got right
hmm
versus left, and like you guys are both just accusing each other of doing the same thing you did either last summer or are doing now. Like no one
yeah,
sees the hypocrisy, and I'm like, all right, I need someone to talk to about this who's has a clear head and like understands my libertarian perspective and can express it to people in an articulate way where we don't sound like the crazy side libertarians you
yeah.
sometimes hear about. And I'm like, I'm gonna hit up Matt. I'm gonna hit up
We
this
should have been
guy.
in the room, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's
because
about
we already had one foray into podcasting for libertarian stuff. We had one episode
yeah,
of the Average Joe Libertarian Show.
yeah. It's still on, still on. It's still rolling.
So
So
let me
I
know,
need to.
man. Let me
We
know.
need to make another one. Me and Dom. So
Yeah, we
you
do.
obviously. So
Yeah,
it was nice. I just need to get my producer going as well. So he's a busy man, but I can't say
yeah.
that for the past 6 months. He would have found some time. I would have found some time. So
Hey,
it's just
man.
been crazy. There was just so like when something happens, like, oh, we should talk about that. Then a week goes by. I'm like, well, maybe wait till next week. Then something big goes happen. I'm like, man, you know what?
I know. Like we're recording this on Tuesday. Like I'm gonna release this Thursday, and by then, who knows what we talk about is even gonna be relevant anymore.
The world is on fire.
Everything's just done. Aliens are coming in.
So no, on to your point about the Capitol building, I thought about it and I wanted to be like, it's different. And I really tried to kind of think about it, like, well, maybe it is different in regards to something. And I was just like, nope, I can't. Every which way, I was just like, no, it's the same. Like,
different in regards to like the riots we saw all summer.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I can't. You can't justify the violence. I always think that voting sometimes is undervalued, and rioting and looting is super counterproductive. And I'm just like, all the stuff that happened in the summer. I get what the cause is for, but also these fucking people are mad too. They think they got gypped out of this fucking election. And so I understand that they're like pissed off, and I understand also that it was a small group of people that stormed in, and it really makes everybody look bad. It's the same thing. And then gosh,
yeah, for me, like
I'm seeing everybody flip their narrative just 180. It's so.
Dude, you saw like I don't make a lot of memes. Like if I'm making a meme, that means I've got too much to say, so I'm just gonna put it in a picture instead. And I did that one of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other, and I'm like, this is what libertarians are seeing right now. And it was like on one side, it was like Republicans justifying intimidation and violence, and the other side, it was Democrats justifying intimidation and violence. And that's all day on the 6th. I'm like, this is what libertarians are looking at now. Like the only thing I can say that's a little bit different is like at least in the Capitol building, they actually targeted their actual bad guys. They weren't hitting innocent people or closing out small businesses. Like when the riots first started in Ferguson, like when they attacked the police department, the police station, I'm like, it's gonna hurt your cause, but at least you're hitting your actual oppressor, so to speak, And there could be arguments either way about whether they're being oppressed or not, but either way, like you're targeting the ones who are at least being seen as oppressing you. And at least when it came to the Capitol riot, I'm like, well, at least you picked the right target this time. But then the hyperbole behind like calling it a coup and insurrection, and I'm like, that's giving the right a lot of credit. Like again, they can't even. We've been in the Middle East for 20 freaking years. Yeah, so you've been in the Middle East for 20 years. Like they can't even do a good coup in other nations with the CIA. If they're gonna work on the home front, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, what I'm worried about is what happens afterwards. Like what's happening now in the surveillance bills and like all this domestic terrorism now. I'm just like, they want to label all this stuff like, like Antifa and all the far lefts, like they're not domestic terrorists. Like the right would claim the same thing. Like it's just like, so I watch a lot more conservative television. And after the Capitol riots, like I was watching like the PragerU guy, and I like Ben Shapiro. I like watching him. His voice just kind of annoys me, but it's whatever. But they all just completely condemned it. Like they were consistent. Like they were like, no, that's not us. Like that's not what we represent. This is awful. And Ben Shapiro actually blamed Trump, like Justin Amash, like he blamed Trump, like. They think that Justin Amash thinks that impeachment is the right way to go. Like he thinks he totally did.
He was for it the first time too.
Huh?
He was for it the first time too.
Yeah.
Justin Amash was. Yeah. But he's a weird case. I don't
not say you're dead. You're just not in Congress. So we wanted you back. I'll see Tulsi Gabbard, please.
I know. That's something I was listening to when you brought up the new surveillance bill. I was listening to Tulsi Gabbard. She was talking about. She was on Joe Rogan recently, which was great. Like I love that exit interview, so to speak. She's talked about how much of like high school Congress really is. How it's just everyone's in their little cliques and stuff. And I'm like, this is not how a bipartisan government's intended to work. Like it's intended to work because you're supposed to have the Democratic side, the left, they're supposed to be the dreamers who are like, hey, we want these things to be better. Here's how we get things better. Then you have the Republicans being more, fiscally practical and being like, okay, those are great goals, but we can't actually realistically achieve those goals. And it keeps things in balance, where the needle steadily moves towards a realistic and stable, better. It's stable progress versus where you have situations like we talk about minimum wage, like where you're trying to inject progress into things, or even some of the green energy stuff, where you're trying to inject all this progress into it, like with the California and their heavy emissions taxing, where you have them just coming down on all of these different fossil fuels that are needed to fuel the green industry and get it going in the first place. But you're heavy-handed slapping it down now, like you're trying to force this progress and it's not ready yet. What you're gonna make it harder. It's gonna be one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah,
especially now, and you had an exodus from California. All the tech companies are moving to Texas. I just posted a video from like MSNBC, something like that, interviewing small business and big business owners. And they're all like, look, yeah, we're failing because of taxes. Like there's taxes and we don't have a lot of, liberty with our businesses here. There's so many restrictions that we can't grow or operate this or be profitable. So like whether or not you think that, corporations being able to make a ton of money is a good or a bad thing, regardless of that, you have to recognize where there's higher taxes, you're going to have these businesses flee to where there's lower taxes. Regardless of the morality of it, it's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, people can't live off their morality. Like, I mean, if you want, you can somehow. I don't know. Like everybody needs money. Like
right. Well, then at the end of the day,
pay everybody $1,400 every 4 months and be like, yep, live with
it. They can't even get it to us 1 month. You really expect that they're going to be able to feed all of us? They can't even pay us what they agree to pay us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a mess. And now the conservatives roll out of the woodwork again, being fiscally conservative again. It's like, come on, really?
$10 or something like that.
Really? Like, oh God. Well, and it's ridiculous too, because like they package, they being politicians, you package all of these different pet projects in something called a stimulus relief bill. And like, wait, you're sending money to things that have nothing to do with the stimulus or relieving Americans. You're spending a bunch of money overseas, but you can't get the U.S. citizens a $2,000 check when you shut down our businesses for the last, what are we at now? It was January last year was when the first cases started hitting. So what, March, early March, late February. So it's been almost a full year. And we've gotten one stimulus check for all the businesses you've shut down. And don't get me wrong, I think this whole thing's absurd. You never should shut down businesses in the first place. But if government's going to shut down your business and tell you can't work, then they need to compensate you. If you're taking away my, it's one of the three things you're here to do. Here to protect life, liberty, and my pursuit of happiness. Well, you're taking off, you're deciding who is essential and who is not. Like some lives are worth more than others.
Like movie studios. Don't you just love that?
Right? There's that video of that woman that had her small business was a restaurant, and she moved stuff to outdoor seating. Somewhere on the West Coast. I can't remember. I want to say California.
Yeah.
And she had all this. She like spent a bunch of money, dumped all her savings into redoing her business so she can serve and function outside. State came in, shut her down, but then set up movie studio seating for food for filming right next to her in the same parking lot, the exact same seating, and that was fine. But her foot down.
I see that shit. I'd be like, I'm burning that down. Like,
dude, and it's just so sad too, because like you're actively driving out what keeps your economy alive, and you're like, this is not freedom.
It's also a double punch, because then you're knocking out the economy, so nothing gets no commerce happens, and then you just create a huge bubble full of just bills in it. You're just like, yeah, let's just create more money. And I'm like, well, there's no commerce right now. I mean, okay, all this is going to cost way more now, and then it's just going to blow, and then everything is just, we're going to be like Zanzibar.
It's an absolute mess. And then even now, like I heard someone from that video I just posted, I think it was posted 2 days ago, they were interviewing like these Chamber of Commerce people throughout the state of California, and they're like, look, like they're still talking about raising taxes on businesses that stay. And I'm like, you didn't see, like, there's like hundreds of thousands of businesses in the last 10 years have left California due to high taxes, and now you're at a massive deficit and can't pay for stuff. So you don't have the tax money, the revenue that you had before, because everyone's bailing because it's so high. So you're going to burden the few that stayed more. Eventually, they're going to do a cost benefit analysis, and they're going to bail too, and you're going to be stuck with a bunch of people who used to a very high cost of living with a lot of amenities that you're not even taking care of. I mean, San Francisco has been a dung heap for a long time.
Yeah,
it's only getting worse. Like you're not even promising the taxpayers what you promised them for these high taxes. You're just running them off.
Yeah, like like the homeless rate is incredibly high in downtown Los Angeles and San Francisco. Like it's almost like, if you see the worst part of Daytona, where we're from, and just multiply that by 1 million, and then you just got yourself a nice little California there. It's just ridiculous. Because they want to, these people can get away with like, oh, we're doing the morale thing. We're going to do all these, I don't even want to call them charities, because they're not. We're going to give all the money to the poor, have all these programs for the poor, and then all of them walk there, and then they drive away a bunch of businesses as well. And now the whole COVID thing, the higher tax rates, the higher everything. It's just like, dude, like, I can't. I'm glad I live in Florida. I'm really glad that our governor is a little bit more uh, fiscally minded, and also, you know, kind of uh, what's the term? Morally sound, I want to say. I mean, he hasn't said anything that I was just like, you know what? That's evil. You know, a lot of things that that Newsom guy, Cuomo, you know, that Gretchen girl, dude, they're like, them bitches are evil, dude. I just can't stand it. It just makes me glad that I'm living in Florida a little
Yeah,
bit.
well, it's so frustrating watching some of these people like Governor Cuomo being like praised and worshiped like they're a god. And like you can pretty much trace most nursing home death back to him and his rules saying they had to reaccept COVID patients who are positive.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you can trace a lot of that death and suffering back to him directly. And then when he kills your grandparents, you can't even go see them in the hospital as they die.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and that he's being worshipped as a hero for how to do it well. Like, look at the economy there. Like, if you compare Florida and New York have very similar populations when it comes to again just per capita. Like, they've got what maybe 500,000 more people than we do, and we have a much more elderly population as well. Look at the way that's been handled. Now, again, most
Yeah,
of New York's population's in the city. That kind of urban environment leads to different things, but you can still like what the subways and stuff were still open for a long, long time.
yeah,
Like you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm going to shut down everything and then still be worshipped as someone that handled it correctly. Because no, there's gonna be long-term consequences. Like
yeah.
no politician are looking past their term, except for the
Nope.
fact they want to get reelected. They're not looking at the consequences for the American people, especially when it comes to economic consequences. No one
Yeah,
looks past the next 4 to 8 years when it comes to economics. But when we're paying for stuff that was put in place 20 plus years ago, if not further.
yeah, exactly.
But
That
they're
I
like, well, I'm
think
not gonna be here for it, so they don't care.
I have a lot of conversations with my liberal leading friends, and so I was just like, man, you know, like I get that you want to save people. I understand that, but you also got to understand that this is going to hurt a lot more people in the long haul. It's, you know, like it's gonna, you know, the ramifications. Like they don't even see. Like a lot of people don't see it with like mental, you know, instability. You know, plus, you know, a lot of these people don't even have a savings account, and now they don't have their jobs and they're getting unemployment, but they're going to have to be taxed on that when tax season comes, and then they're not going to be able to pay that. You know, then that mental instability goes up, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a suicide rate that goes way up. And then you're going to be like, oh, this suicide crisis came out of nowhere. And they're like, oh,
Well, we're already seeing it. We're seeing issues with domestic violence at home. Child abuse is increasing. Suicides going crazy. So you have the populations like under 40 that are having these long-term consequences of being unemployed or turning to drug abuse, turning to addiction, turning to all these different things because their entire livelihoods and meaning have been destroyed. And then everyone's just worried about the populations. I mean, the average it's annoying because talking about anything like this, you have to give 1,500 disclaimers. But like when it comes down to talking about how like the cure can't be worse than the disease, in Florida, thankfully, it's really not. But in
yeah,
a lot of states, it is. But did you notice they're starting to ease back a lot of restrictions now? Kind of
yeah.
came around at right around, I don't know, what was it, like January 20th?
21st, I'm January 20th, 21st. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they started like, oh, we can't
I
stay
mean,
locked down
well,
forever. It's like, wait, now that Biden, like, it's so completely jacked up to even have to like even have the room to think that governors in the United States were intentionally hurting their people to make another president look bad that they disagreed with. But
yeah,
here we are, and like even Tulsi Gabbard's talking about it with Joe Rogan. So like these are not just random ramblings of two dudes on Zoom. Like this is things that we should actively be worried about and considering.
yeah. I what was I watching? I was just realizing just a bunch of stuff that's happening. Like I didn't even really pay attention to politics after, you know, until really Trump came into office, because it made it interesting, a lot more interesting than usual.
That did.
And I'm just like just seeing like just the the media bias, and like the censorship nowadays is out of control. You know, they're just, and it's it's insane. It's insane to me. I'm trying to bring a point home, but I don't even know how to even like fathom it, because there's just everything is just makes you think like that doesn't sound right. You know, the whole, you know, now Gavin Newsom's like, oh, yeah, we'll put off our restrictions, with no uh difference in like cases or deaths or something like
Right, it's like
that.
what's the new data that's changing some of these governors' mind? Like why is Newsom and Cuomo suddenly starting to ease up a little more? Is there new data that came out? Is it because the vaccines get more widespread? Or I mean, again, you can't put aside the fact that it might just be because they wanted to make Trump look bad. I mean, you even had Bill freaking Maher saying on his platform that, you know, maybe an economic recession would be good so Trump wouldn't be successful. It's like, bro, really? You're that disconnected from reality? Like, come on, man. Like, there's things you say now and then. I'm like, cool, yeah, you're pushing against the establishment. Dope. There's other things he says like that I'm like, what? Like, how do you call yourself like an objectively, like, how do you dress in the morning? Like, it's not independent thought, bro. That's so disconnected from reality.
That's how we got Trump in the first place. Like these are the reasons why. Like, you're wanting somebody worse than Trump. I don't know who is worse than Trump, or you know, what have you.
Well, America thought Clinton would be.
Yeah, right.
Or at least the right electorates did.
Yeah, right. You're just like, you know, not to say that I think Trump did some terrible things. I thought Trump did some good things as well. Like, I'm not, you know, like, I want every president to succeed in doing their job, and just about everybody disappoints me, so it's whatever. But you know, like, it's stuff like this that, you know, 50 million people, 50 to how many voted for Trump? Like 65,
like 72 million this last time. Like 72 million.
Yeah, 72 million people are like, yeah, we're fed up with what they're doing, you know. And
right.
I mean, they label it as the left, they labeled it as socialism and all this. I'm just like, but it's really just everything.
Dude,
like,
it's the establishment. They're tired of this establishment, this political establishment, because they see this pendulum swing back and forth, left and right, every 4 to 8 years. And they see nothing actually really changes, because they see just a power battle going back and forth, and all we're doing is spinning our tires, fighting with each other, when really you have these people, like, you have people our age voting for politicians that have been in office longer than we've been alive. And they're supposed to represent the people. They haven't been the people for 3 or 4 decades, y'all. Like, you're voting. Bernie Sanders doesn't care about you. He's not a man of the people at all. He hasn't been one of the people forever. And all he does is talk shit about capitalism. Homeboy sold a lot of sweaters with his meme on it real quick. He donated it, which I think is dope. But then again, like, his book was a bestseller. He made a ton of money off that. Where'd that money go? I don't know. One of his sports cars or the 3 houses? Like, he's not a man of the people. And like, I'll give him credit for at least sticking to his guns. They're terrible, awful guns, but he's stuck with the same ones at least. Yeah. How bad is it that I have to, like, at least give credit to, like, the one person that's been consistent throughout politics, and someone I think's ideas are retarded?
Yeah, I think,
like, hard R simple Jack. Like, it's that's what's gonna blow up my podcast finally. I said the R word on it, and I'm gonna try to get canceled.
Flaming Dragon is taking over.
So, but it's just so absurd. And then Trump. Everyone thinks that all of a sudden Americans became terrible and elected this terrible person. It's like, no, you idiots. Trump is not the problem. He's the result. He's a symptom of the problem. The problem is that we've had this establishment that's nothing for Americans, but only keeps themselves in power, makes all these crony deals, sets up the free market so it's no longer free and only benefits those who donate to them. Because, like, Bernie Sanders has some legitimate complaints about the U.S. economy. The dumbass doesn't realize it's not capitalism. It's crony capitalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Monopolies do not tend to form in a vacuum. Without federal manipulation and regulation, keeping the small guys out and laying down competition, raising the bar so it's harder to compete with these tech firms and these other companies, that's government regulation keeping other people from competing. And there should be some regulation for sure, but it needs to be reasonable, and it needs to be what keeps the people safe, not keeps them out of jobs.
Yeah, exactly. You know, corporate welfare is the only monopoly I see. Is it's like, yep, you're doing bad, we'll give you some money. You know, you don't.
Right, and the bailouts. Come on, like what have the bailouts done for us? Any of them? Name any bailouts actually help the American people and not just push us further in debt and kick the can down the road.
I can't think of many good government programs that actually did any help. So I am not in the long run of things like that. Always seem like that they're good, that they're always based on good intentions, like, oh, we're going to give the people some money, but not knowing that they're going to have to pay for it later, and we're also sending a lot more money somewhere else. Not
right. Yeah. And the fact that they're borrowing from Social Security, like, you have no choice but to pay Social Security so that you've got money when you retire, but then they're borrowing, like, we're not going to see a dime of that money, bro. Like instead of forcing that, instead of stealing that money from my paycheck, just let me keep it, or put it into like a 401k or something. Let someone invest it. Let it actually do something besides be a piggy bank for you to trifle through whenever you decide you want another foreign war.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. Like, I guess they sent what 3,000 troops back.
I saw a convoy of 200 into Syria on like Biden's like second day. I don't know how many more are gearing up there, but dude, did you see that post I had where like I saw a headline from The Guardian that it was behind a paywall, so I couldn't read the article, unfortunately, but I'm sure it would have given me a freaking aneurysm. But the headline was something to the effect of, to unite the country, Biden needs to tap into a Gulf War era mentality. I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling us like to unite the country, we need to have a common enemy, basically? You're saying that you are a very liberal journalist who is promoting war to unite people. You want to kill other people, definitely brown, poor people, poorer than we are, browner than we are. And you want to drop bombs on them to unite all of us.
That sounds
the
like an OG
actual
Democrat
fuck.
right there.
And dude, like this is the establishment. That's not a Democrat saying that. That's an establishment crony saying that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, obviously, someone that's promoting that, but the entire mainstream media is doing this shit, dude. And you can't. So like everyone says people on the far right are so crazy for not believing stuff. It's like, look, I understand why they don't believe anything you say. Like if you say, if Fauci comes out in the beginning of the pandemic, says don't wear masks, we're not going to do anything for you, and then the rest of the pandemic, like, oh wait, yeah, no, you need to be wearing masks constantly, even after you get the vaccine. Well, you wonder why no one's going to listen to you, because either two things are true in the first thing you said. Either A, you were lying to the American people, or you were deciding that some American lives were more important than other ones because you said you want to save them for, frontline healthcare workers. And dude, we are frontline healthcare workers. And I don't think my life is more valuable than someone else's. In fact, if I did think that, I wouldn't be a fucking frontline healthcare worker risking my life to save other people all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. Just here's what you need to do, Fauci. When you're in a spot like that, just tell the truth, difficult truth. Don't baby the American citizens, because you know what's going to happen? No one's going to believe anything you say after you lie to us. And there's going to be consequences for that. Every single person that's like, I don't believe in wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. I can put that on Fauci. I have no problem saying that's his fault. No one wants to mask anymore. I'm not putting it on them. They've been lied to.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame them for not trusting the people that lied to them. Come on. Like, you have to understand that you're hurting your own cause.
Yeah.
Treat Americans like adults.
The thing is like when somebody goes against some, I don't think I should wear a mask because, Fauci didn't think so at first. And like the whole counter argument to that is just like them backpedaling the entire time of just, oh, well, well, you don't care about people. Like, I was just like, no, I'd rather my government be transparent to me than just be like, just flip-flopping because somebody, it almost, because we're not stupid, because we think that when somebody is lying to me, I was like, there's alternative motives here. There's got to be something else going on. And, it's like, you don't want to feed into that, especially in this huge internet, social media world where somebody could just be in their truck and make a video and they got 100 million followers or what have you. And then, you got yourself a whole batch of just, I would even call it misinformation, like uninformation, like you gave nothing. And it all stems to the government saying, flip-flopping their cases. It's just, it's absurd to me.
Right. Well, and the spinning that the media forces down all of us, the way they spin every single story, like, depending on whether you're on the right or the left. The left clearly dominates the media sphere, but then you have the right doing the same kind of thing, and you see. Like Douglas Murray said this, and I was listening to, he did a podcast with Jordan Peterson. Oh, I'm so glad he's back. But he did a podcast with Jordan Peterson like a day or two ago. I was listening to that this morning, and Douglas Murray, author of The Madness of Crowds and The Strange Death of Europe, talks about this extensively in the books. But he said on the podcast today, it's like, well, Americans aren't arguing, like they're not arguing over different opinions of the same facts. They're arguing over different facts.
Yeah.
Because now we have all these alternate truths and these different kind of things that are just being stated like they're factual. It's like, now you can't say believe the science if you don't if you just pick and cherry pick the science that you want that backs your cause, your argument, or the person you want to hurt politically. It's not how that's not how it works. If you really want to be someone that's scientific, let's pay attention to the economists. You talk about what happens when you raise the federal minimum wage. Talk about what the Congressional Budgetary Committee found out in 2017 when they did a report on what would happen with a federal minimum wage hike. And 1.3 to 3.7 million jobs were estimated to be lost with a $15 minimum wage increase.
Wow.
And then the first thing Biden does is wants to do that. And then let's talk about, again, I want whoever's piloting my plane to be successful. I'm not going to wish the plane to crash because someone I don't like is piloting it. But fuck, dude, Biden is coming in strong with the establishment cronyism immediately, sending more troops to the Middle East right away, not doing anything he's promised. Oh, let's talk about the fact how we criticize Trump this entire time for not having a plan for COVID, then immediately start saying like, well, it's going to do what it's going to do. Not much I can do about it now. It's like
the trajectory of it is not.
You literally said you had a plan that'd be better than Trump's plan. And then you get into office, time to implement the plan. You're like, well, here's the plan. It's just going to do what it does.
Here's the plan. There's no plan.
God, it's so frustrating to see so many people just drinking the Kool-Aid and just begging for it even. Like we're putting politicians should not be rock stars. They should not be our role models. They should not be people we elevate to these super godlike status. Because you know what happens when you put people on Mount Olympus? They stay there. They're not going to want to leave. If you give them all that power, they're going to try to keep it. And guess who they're going to try to keep it from us. Right. They're going to gain more and more by giving us less and less. Because as soon as we realize they're not serving us anymore, they're serving themselves, we're going to vote them out. But they keep us so busy fighting each other and thinking that we are the other. Like you're looking at, if I'm a Democrat looking at a Republican, well, you're a different species than I am. Like families are like breaking up over this stuff. It's like, guys, this is absurd. Like I'm a passionate dude, but I've got a ton of friends that are incredibly liberal. I have some that are incredibly right leaning. And you know what? We get along pretty well. Every now and then we delve into politics. Usually doesn't last that long. We come to a quick, okay, agree, disagree. But at the end of the day, we're still friends. Like I see one of these dudes every Thursday. We play D&D together. It's great. Like he's been on the podcast. Good friend. But we just don't talk about politics sometimes. But even if it comes to a point where you just you're not ever going to agree on stuff, which is where I'm at with a lot of my friends, that's fine. Like they're not other creatures. They're not my enemy. Like we're all Americans who ultimately at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. Americans all want the nation to be safer, happier, and have more opportunity for those who want it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we have different ways of accomplishing that goal, but at the end of the day, we're on the same team.
Yeah, and like some people are just, some people are just in it to argue. Some people are just like, when something happens, whether it's politics or not, immediately they go to their respective sides, and they go to their news outlets that it sucks that these people, and even me included, like I would, if something would happen in sports, I want to know some analysis from two certain people, but I also don't take that as scripture as well. I'm like, let me take the information, let me take it, and then take it from the opposite way. Let me hear the other side. And kind of make your own informed decision. But some people are just like, nope, whatever this guy says is what it is, or this guy says is what it is. And I'm like, you can't fight with these people. And I choose not. I'd be like, all right, But I don't think that is a character defect. I don't think that I think less of them as a person. Like if they say if they want to kill a certain group of people, I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. They want to hurt somebody. Like, of course, I'm going to be like, you're a piece of shit, dude. But if it has deal with like even economic policy or foreign policy, I can find some middle ground in that, always. And they've made it so personal. Like, it's like, especially with the social media, because everybody has their own person that they go to, that they're just like, if you disagree with this guy, that means you're attacking me. And I'm like, no, I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to, think outside, just trying to really get where you're coming from. And maybe we can find some middle ground here, or maybe you convince me. I think that way. I don't know, like it's hard to do, like to kind of come into a middle ground with somebody you not dislike or disagree with. It's honestly the worst it's been over the past like 4 years. Yeah,
Oh
I'd
yeah,
say.
by far. Well,
And I
because
think it's going to
everyone.
get a lot worse too. It didn't just stop with Trump. Like it's just like it's going to get so much worse in 2 years. Like the 4 years ago when they had their senators, go for it. I've never seen so many people try to vote for him, which is a good thing. But also, you're just like people are coming at me. I'm just like I don't know. Like some of I didn't know, and they're like, "What? You don't care? You care about." They'll come up to me usually, more about football than your own congressman. I'm like, well, football's a lot more funner than politics. But gosh, people just, they want to go for the jugular. Especially in arguments. Some people just want to win too. Like, I try to stay clear. Like, I'll have an argument and, go from there. But I only argue with certain people,
Yeah.
But,
Well, I try to get into. I try to have discussions. Like someone comes at me, I'm like, okay, well, like, let me know why you think this. Like, what information have you seen? Maybe I haven't seen it. Like someone says like, oh, this is wrong. I'm like, well, hey, do you have a source you can share it so I can, see it for myself, so we can at least be operating off the same information. Because 9 times out of 10, if you find the same information, you can find, okay, well, here's how I see this. Oh, I didn't see that perspective. Blah blah blah. But everyone gets so wrapped up in these identity politics, where you just wrap up your entire being into an ideology. And like, you know what? Like if I still stuck with the ideology I had even 2 years ago, I'd be even more of a dumb fuck than I am now.
yeah.
And it'd be so sad. But everyone gets so tribal with it. Or you can't. Where if you're on, I'm on team AOC. Okay, AOC said some stupid shit, and you're still on her team. Oh, well, yeah. Well, they don't see me as attacking the person's ideas. They see me attacking that person as an individual. Not even AOC, but like the one that supports them. And that's something that I'm really kind of surprised to see after this election and after the inauguration. It's that there's usually after you've got a close election, which most of them are, you find the new sitting, in this case, I'm going to say like establishment, trying to find some kind of way to unify and throw a bone to the losing team, so to speak. Whereas like, okay, we'll make some concessions with it. Like an example could be like border security. Something I thought that I might see with border security is like, well, yeah, we do need to have more border security, maybe not a wall. Maybe increase funding to these things more. Because border security is something that, Trump pretty much ran on. That's something that unified a lot of the countries worried about border security. So there's usually I was expecting to see some kind of conversation from the left to the right, being like, hey, okay, well, maybe not a wall, but we'll increase some border security this way. Throw them a bone, like I said. But like they are hardcore alienating 72 million people and trying to like blacklist people that are Trump supporters. They're just scorching they're scorching the earth with it. And I'm like, this is a huge portion of the fucking nation that you're basically saying are all racists and garbage people and fascists. Like, you're like, really?
They'll justify it by memes too. Like, remember that meme that came out was like right before, well, not right before the election, you got you're not a racist because you vote for Trump, but you think that racism isn't a deal breaker. I'm just like, bro,
right?
If you don't,
and it's like, look, I still haven't seen any evidence homeboy's racist. Is he a dick? Absolutely. Is he misogynistic? Yeah, I'll absolutely give you that one for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't see the racism thing, and I'm not seeing the fascism thing either.
People on both sides, right?
And everyone takes that clip out of context. If you listen to 20 more seconds of it, he deliberately says he's not talking about the white supremacists. Like, he cuts them out deliberately. If you listen to like 15 more seconds of that fucking clip, but no one does. They get the soundbite they want, and then they just go off and they're running with it, and because it fits the narrative. But I think the media really screwed themselves when it came to the first covering of Trump in 2016 or in 15 or whatever he first hit the stage and announced his candidacy, because they basically thought, oh, he's a clown, he's never gonna get in. So they just elevated all the clown stuff he did. This is something that who was talking about what they did? It was Matt Taibbi, journalist. He wrote a book called Hate Inc. And I ordered it on Amazon. It's not here yet, but I'm stoked for it. But basically chronicling the way that these different establishments within the government and media, mainstream media corporations especially, pit American citizens against each other. And he was talking about how the media really, really screwed up with Trump, just displaying him being a clown, elevating that, because then you had Trump elevating how dumb it was, the things they're focusing on. Things like what they would call locker room talk. They're dismissing these things. Like, on the one side, it's like, okay, yeah, it does say a lot about the president that he would say, even in private, that, I'm gonna grab him by the pussy, that kind of thing. It's a douche thing to say.
Yeah.
But are there bigger issues with it? Because then Fox goes and says, well, there's bigger issues than this. Well, then the left mainstream media, which is everyone but Fox, basically says, well, he's a monster because of this, and they're like, well, let's look at the policy at Fox. Let's look at what he said on the left, and it's infuriating because the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, and all the independent news sources are the ones being drowned out by people like Twitter and YouTube and anyone else that has any kind of dissenting view from the mainstream. Like, this text censorship is getting super scary, and it's a tough one too, because I'm very much on the private company train. Like, I don't think Twitter should have to bake that cake, so to speak.
Yeah,
but like we can at least when they all agreed to pretty much shut out Parler, when you're getting rid of all the competition there is, even what dismal competition there is in the first place, you're trying to get rid of all of that when they ban them from the Google Play Store, from the Apple Store, all these places. Like, okay, well, now you're deliberately shitting on all of your competition because you're censoring them on your platforms, so they go to other platforms. Now you're trying to shut out those platforms. Here's what happens when censorship never works. Bad ideas to be fought with good ideas. And if you try to censor them and shut them up, what they're going to do is they're not going to be exposed to good ideas anymore. They're going to go in their little echo chambers and smaller platforms, and they're going to keep getting smaller and smaller. You're going to drive them to these dark corners of the internet where all they do is hang out with other rural extremists. They get radicalized, and then you've got people trying to kidnap Governor Whitmer.
Yep.
That's what happens. Like, so if I've got a racist neighbor, I want to know homeboy's racist so I can not associate with him. But if I refuse to associate with him, then I'll never find that out. Let's say he's got some bad ideas. I can't be like, oh, well, here's why I think that's, that may be incorrect. Let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. But if you shut them out of the conversation completely, then you're going to create more radicalization. And nothing is worse than censoring people who have felt oppressed for the last 4 years. When you have people coming out like Hillary Clinton calling Trump supporters baskets of deplorables, you've got people all over the right and all Trump supporters in general, all feeling some kind of oppressed. And I'm not going to disagree with there's some level of oppression with them, and then obviously it's not going to be, because I hear people screaming about oppression, and they're not comparing. I'm not comparing it to slavery. That's back to simple Jack right there. If you even assume it's comparing those two things.
Top tier is slavery. We're not.
But if you've got people who are screaming for 4 years that the person you voted for is illegitimate, is a Russian asset, when you go through the entire 3 years of trying to find that out, they find fucking nothing, and yet you're still a fascist, deplorable racist because you voted for someone that wasn't the establishment, because you probably voted for him because you were desperate for something different. But now you're being lumped in like that, and now I know what you care about is being censored on the major tech platforms. You are literally creating a pressure cooker for radicalization.
Exactly, and that shit just explodes. It's again, that's how we got, people like Trump in the first place. Like they a lot of people, were sick of the same old thing. Like, what did Trump say? I'm gonna drain the swamp. I'm gonna put Hillary in jail. I'm gonna build that wall. I want to do all this, and a lot of people.
He didn't do any of it.
Yeah, I know
he did none of it. Yeah, it was just funny. Like, yep. But like something different. Like, again, like Trump. I always say Trump is he's a symptom of the problem, not the actual problem. The problem isn't that America is racist and we're a bunch of baskets of deplorables. No, the issue is we're desperate for something that's not part of this political infrastructure that's been betraying us for so long with empty promises. There's no if back to normalcy is the hope and change Obama brought. Oh fuck. Because that's the same kind of stuff that got Trump elected in the first place. Back to normalcy is just back to the same problems that cause all of this systemic racism you're talking about. These are all establishment things. These are all establishment programs that have been going on for a long time. Yeah, and then you're going to put someone back in that, first off, in the 90s wrote a bunch of the crime bills that causes the issues in the first place. And we can go on and on about that. But then there's the phony flip-flopping of everything. You had Kamala Harris during the debates calling Biden a sexual predator, and then basically saying he owes all of those people an apology, and she believes everything that they say. And then as soon as he's the president, or as soon as he's the candidate to run in the primary, and she offers an olive leaf to the one. Well, he shoot himself into a corner saying to be a woman of color too. But then like next thing you know, she's like, oh, VP status? Okay, yeah, no, you're fine now. The rich old white guy I've been ragging on for all these sexual assault, terrible things. It's fine. I'll run with him. He's good now because he has power.
Oh. Yeah, that's exactly what I feel like she ran to, especially after, again, Tulsi Gabbard just like fucking just ended her.
She obliterated her.
I was just like, oh God, I know she's a libertarian in disguise as a Democrat, but gosh,
I'm not. When we get back to identity politics, like, yeah, I fly that libertarian flag very proudly, but I'm not married to that. Like I was going to vote for Tulsi in a friggin' heartbeat, and I was upset that Florida's a closed
Actually, I
primary
would too.
state because I would have voted for her in the primaries. But being a registered libertarian, I can't vote. You know, if I can't vote in other parties' primaries. But it's just why did they not want her? Because she hits all the check boxes. You've got someone that's young, woman of color, military veteran, still active duty, plenty of experience in Congress. She was even part of Bernie's campaign at one point. So you've got like the entire left should be all about her. But why did they stonewall her so hard? Why do you think?
I think you answered your question with Bernie because they don't want Bernie guy.
Well, they don't want Bernie because Bernie, as moronic as he is, he's not establishment.
Yeah,
he's not looking to toe that party line, and Tulsi wouldn't have either, and everyone associated with that. Any like, I mean, look at what they're doing to Trump. They impeached homeboy twice. They're going to try to. They're like after he's already lost. They're beating that dead horse, but because they don't want to run again, they're sending a message. The establishment is sending a message to everyone else that's not part of the establishment, saying this is what we're going to do to you. We are going to utterly destroy you and salt the earth you used to walk on.
Yeah. Yeah,
how dare you challenge the cathedral?
Yeah, and then back to your identity politics. Like I always talk to people, it's just like, well, why do you think that a lot of these bipartisan or these duopoly tries to get certain amount of people? Like, oh, Black Lives Matter. I'm gonna scoop you right up, right here. These are nice votes. These are nice votes for me because it's easy to just get votes from groups of people than just like. Yeah, 1, 2. They want to group them all together and throw them in there, and then once they win, throw them off to the curb. That's like, right? Yeah, we're going to totally change things, and they're like, yeah, we'll go for the change, and then they don't do anything. Like I don't think qualified immunity has been taken out of anybody's.
Yeah, no one's been talking about that. The only person talking about that was Rand Paul. Was talking about it a bunch just with his Justice for Breonna Taylor Act he tried getting passed. And then I think Tulsi talked about it some too. Like there's only a handful of people actually talking about qualified immunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing that would prevent so many of these unjust killings is not letting cops get off the hook with all of this stuff, or at least taking a hard look at the way these laws are implemented. Because I mean, there does need to be a degree of protection for first responders, absolutely. But be real careful with what they can get away with. Because if there's any inch to take, they're going to try to go for a mile. Everyone will. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you're a cop. Doesn't matter if you're a paramedic. Doesn't matter if you're a nurse. Doesn't matter if you're a firefighter. If you're a firefighter, you're going to take the whole hose roll, the entire thing.
Whatever keeps me in that station, boy.
And park right in front of that door so the stretcher can't get in. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
But it's just, I don't know, man. Like I'm fairly like, so I'm red pilled in the sense that I see that the red and the Republicans and the Democrats, I see them for what they are. They're both just puppets for an establishment. They only agree on things when it comes to spending our money and giving themselves more power. At the end of the day, they don't represent the people at all. They represent themselves. That's it. Just the ones on Mount Olympus, just the same gods. We're all peons to them, just useful for taking our tax money and keeping them in cushy, lofty positions where they can exert their power. But then I'm also white pilled in the sense that I think there is hope. And I go back and forth between like being white pilled where I'm hopeful and being black pilled where like we're all screwed. There's no way to turn this ship around. I'm white pilled in the sense that I think that there is going to be a huge eureka moment during these next 4 years where you've got Democratic control of all 3 branches of federal government, where you're going to see, okay, cool. Now's the chance. We already saw Obama break a ton of promises. Now you're going to see there's going to be no excuse now. There's no excuse for, oh, well, the Congress was Republican majority or Senate was Republican majority or blah, blah, blah. There's no excuse now for Democrats to not get their stuff through. Yeah, so exactly. What they're going to either continue to fail to fulfill their promises, or they're going to fulfill some of the promises and you're going to see them backfire. It might not be immediately, but the repercussions will be known. And we're going to look back to 2021 and be like, well, they weren't telling the truth at all. And the things they did do were poor choices.
Yeah. And I think people forget, like, it's only it's only the youth that turns into like, they get duped into that kind of establishment type because they're impressionable. You're 18 to 20 years old and you get all these kind of policies that sound really good. And then like, why do you think Republicans get called boomers a lot of the time? Because it's like the Democrats spent all their fucking money, 40 fucking years ago. and then they switch sides. Like when it Ronald Reagan, that was the last time California was red. Is that right?
I want to
think
say
so.
yeah. I want to say yeah.
Yeah. So just
Yeah, 'cause
like
he's Republican.
yeah, exactly. It's just like it's these people have lived through it, and so they grow up to like kind of want something different, and that's kind of we kind of move back into that, like like there's a lot of like these impressionable people that used to be very like liberal leaning of like they care about humanity, and then they realize all this stuff doesn't really make any sense, but they're still feeding it, and they're like, I don't trust it anymore. And then once they obviously get jobs, and just like it kind of sways people's opinions a little bit.
Well,
Like
what's that
some will
saying? Like they say, if you're not liberal when you're young, you have no heart. But if you're not conservative when you're old, you have no brain.
yeah,
I think that's why. Well, this is why this is such a great moment for the message of liberty, because we
yeah,
fall right in the middle of these categories. All these people are not being represented anymore. The Republicans are no longer fiscally conservative. Well, they haven't been for a long freaking time. And then
yeah,
and then liberals are no longer really that liberal. The progressivism, where they're just trying to out progress the next person, is getting to absurd levels. And I think a lot of people on the left even are realizing that we're getting into some murky territory, and things
yeah,
are it's getting a little bit too absurd. So, but
yeah.
then so, but then where you have the liberty movement, where libertarians are leading, you have people who are socially liberal but fiscally
Mhm.
conservative. Where I'm like, hey, I want everyone to have all the freedoms all the time, but we have to be able to actually have it. Like you have to be
Yeah,
realistically about getting it. Like I want, like whenever someone's like, "What are your political beliefs?" Like I always go back to, I want my gay married neighbors to protect their pot plants with guns.
yeah,
And that's it. I want ultimate freedom for the people. As long as you're not infringing on anyone else's rights, I think you should be able to live your life the best way you see fit. And we've illustrated time and time again why, again, these are people that have been in office, political office, for longer than we've been alive. But yet they're the ones who are going to tell us how we should live our lives. They don't even know how to live a normal life. They only
yeah,
have the political structure and the establishment behind them. They don't know. Like
yeah,
career
exactly.
politician should not be a title for anybody. It should be
Yeah,
you go in, you serve your term for a little bit, represent your people, and then someone else comes in. There should not be these dinosaurs like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell leading all of this. This is freaking absurd.
I think she had a stroke and they Botoxed
I think, I
it.
think,
Those eyebrows are just up there. I don't know where wrinkles start and her eyebrows
I mean,
begin.
between her witch face and McConnell's turtle face, I mean, it really is a match made in hell.
But
They deserve each other. And the
yeah,
American people at one point too, I wrote something about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's like, at what point do the American people take responsibility for this? Because we're the ones that keep voting these monsters into office time and time again. We're the ones who are like, we're now seeing the blatant hypocrisy, especially during the COVID days. So if you look at people like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi and a plethora of other options too to choose from, where they say, oh yeah, don't, make sure you wear a mask. These businesses aren't safe. But then they go to those businesses without masks, like Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done. Or then Gavin Newsom saying, you have to be masked even when you're having Thanksgiving dinner and in between bites at home. But then he's out at a restaurant inside, no mask on anyone at the big
yeah,
table. It's like people are finally waking up to seeing that they don't care about us. We're not actually represented.
yeah. And once and soon enough, hopefully it will get to be a point to where some people see it, and like that's not enough for them anymore. And I'm like, I want to see what you've done before I vote for you. I'm not gonna just be like, oh, this is a new face, you could change it, and he just does the same thing over and over again. Just like, you know. And hopefully, I haven't seen one person who's like, oh, Gavin Newsom's did a fabulous job of what he's been doing. I'm like, like at least over the people I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I don't really agree with even a lot of liberals I talk to. I'm like, they don't really care for him.
Right, like it's
So
getting too much. It's getting to be too much.
yeah,
And again, you have like a massive migration from a lot of these, like New York, California. They're massively migrating, And I think
yeah,
things are finally coming to a head. I think all the
yeah,
turmoil is coming to a point where two things are going to happen. Either we're just going to double down on toxic tribalism and you're going to have a freaking civil war, unrest in the
mhm,
streets, or people are going to finally wake up and realize, oh, these are the people responsible for all of this. Let's just put different people in.
yeah, exactly. What do you think that people are more moving towards libertarianism than just kind of trying to stick to their respective signs? You
It
think
depends. It's hard to gauge sometimes because it's always the people on the most like the furthest out that are screaming the loudest, where more moderate people aren't the ones out there on the soapboxes every day. So it's tough to
yeah,
gauge. Like I'm optimistic. So I mean, people, I I used to have a lot more conservative friends be interested in libertarianism and ask me about it. And but lately, this past year, I've had a lot of friends that I would consider on the left, or who would, have been said they're on the left, have much more libertarian leaning values and even vote for, Jorgensen this time.
yeah.
So I
I mean,
think at the end of the day, I mean, liberty is for everyone. Like people, like someone called me selfish the other day when I was making a point about the lockdowns being bad for not only us now and currently, but later on too. And then, wanting people to have the choice to take what risk they think are, worth risking for. Like, is it worth it to risk getting sick? Like if you're under the age of 40, you don't have a whole lot of risk from COVID. Going to work and being able to afford your rent, not get homeless, that's a pretty obvious choice. But taking that power away from the people in the name of what? Of
yes,
perceived
in the
safety.
name of government.
Where you see
That's
rates in Florida and rates in New York, like per capita, Florida's doing better than New York is, and we have been
yeah,
open for the majority of it. We locked down for a bit, but not that long. The only complaint I have about Florida's lockdowns is breweries were cut out for a lot longer than they should have been.
yeah. I mean, you could have gone to titty bars more than an actual
Right,
bar, because titty bars
right.
had food.
And
Like,
Florida has such an amazing like small business brewery economy going on too, and it got hurt bad, but
did you hear about the FDA fining a bunch of breweries for making hand sanitizer?
I
Like,
didn't hear about that. No, it sounds like
yeah,
the FDA would do that
there was
though.
an article. I'll send it to you. I'll probably tag you in this show that the FDA was fining $16,000 because they weren't up to code of the hand sanitizer when they were all selling out. And you had the private sector doing what they can, and here comes the federal government saying, "Nope, you did this wrong. Here's a fine." There, I'll have to look it up right now. Let's see if I can. I could probably get it 5 seconds. So,
It's
uh,
so I'll rant for a minute when you do that, but like it's
yeah,
just like that's a perfect example of regulation inhibiting private industry. And this is a case where you've got your private industry is what, if you can say anything like saved America during this pandemic, if you want to get that dramatic about it, it's private industry. Like hands down, because they're the ones that rally. They converted businesses. They ramped up production. If you have a thorough government controlling the means of production, you're not going to ever meet what you need for an issue like a pandemic.
yeah. Yeah, I found it. FDA backing. Oh, they're backing off now. Backing off
Oh,
14. It was $14,000 for fine for breweries that made hand sanitizer. The breweries that were helping out making hand sanitizer when it was in short supply, they were supposed to register as drug makers. The FDA says, prompting the fine.
oh my
That was what
God.
they. What the FDA
It's
is such a piece of shit, dude. And their immunity for all these vaccines, by the way, for 5 years. That's it makes you think that, yeah, the FDA is really in it to protect.
Well, look at what happened with the vaccines that are out now. They're not approved by the FDA. They have an emergency use authorization. So it's okay. We have a
Yeah,
pandemic where we desperately need to get vaccines out to the people, and the FDA, like, you have to go around the FDA. Well, then if you have to go around it during an emergency, it's probably not efficient to begin with in the first place.
yeah, yeah.
Do we
I don't
really,
know too
if we
much
if we don't
about it.
need it during an emergency, do we need it for the rest of the time too? Or can we at least look at seeing like what regulation may be beneficial and which ones are, or we shouldn't just have everything just out there? There needs to be a regulating body, yeah. But here's the issue: if you don't pay attention to who's running these regulating bodies, they're just gonna, and who they're getting money from. More importantly, they're gonna start regulating all the small guys out of business, and you're
Yeah,
gonna start
that's why we
having
couldn't get
monopolies.
ventilators in the beginning, because the FDA decided to be like, nope, we will approve them. And the same thing with the tests. Like, they didn't have many tests. They were like, no,
Dude, the
nope.
testing situation in the States was abysmal from the beginning. It was
Yeah,
such a
yeah,
clusterfuck.
yeah. And the media, of course, blamed it on Trump, but it was the FDA is like, yeah, two. You get these two right here. I think it was two out of 10 that I think they got. So, and
It's frustrating, man. It really it bugs me. It
yeah, and you know what? Everybody, you have to go to like I found that whole FDA fines thing from Sacramento. Like, it's not like ABC News or Fox News or anything like that, because they don't think that stuff is like that stuff. It sent chills down my spine. Like, I just like it makes my blood boil. So
Right.
that
Like if you find out the federal government is actively inhibiting a response that'll save lives, and the mainstream media is not covering it, you're finding it from a local station, but yet we're all obsessing over the vice president's wearing Converse or her outfit. That's what we're looking at. Like, really?
what fucking
like, again,
moon rock that Biden has.
and on the one,
I
and on the one, right? Like, I don't care that he rearranged his office. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, what I want to know is what's he gonna do in the office. That's what I want to know. And so far, like, going back to like the pandering that politicians do, like all the promises to Black Lives Matter and everything. Like, what's Biden done so far? He's gonna put Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. That's gonna end systemic racism. I feel less racist now. Like, do you feel less racist if you had 20 with Harriet Tubman on it? So I'd feel more unified for sure. Yeah, I would definitely.
You know what? All the props to Andrew Jackson being off that bill. I mean, he didn't want to be on it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. And again, it's stupid I have to say that I'm not defending Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson can fuck off. I'm not really much of a fan. I don't care that much about.
What was his last words? At least I fed off the banks. I'm almost like, well, Trail of Tears wasn't that great.
But you were kind of a monster, dude.
Yeah. So he also did a lot. So he came down to Florida to kind of just wipe him out. I was like, bro, yeah, I can't do that. So
yeah, no,
like,
I'm not on board with that.
3 strikes of why you shouldn't be on the $20 bill. Like,
yeah, and any one of those would be all 3 strikes. Like they're all significant enough, but
yeah, one of those things. Yeah,
but it's like just pay attention to what the government's doing these next 4 years, because the people that were voted for, overwhelmingly, not overwhelmingly, but the people that were voted for, the majority were voted for, have the power now. Now it's either when they need to hold up and keep their promises, or you're going to see them sell out to the establishment like they always do. And you know what? I would love to be wrong about this, but I don't. Even if Biden wasn't with massive cognitive decline to begin with, I don't think he's strong enough to have a backbone to stand up to the establishment. I mean, Trump didn't even stand up to them fully. The swamp was not drained. He added a few more creatures to that swamp for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But look what they're doing. He called them out. He called up the media. He called out all the establishment. He called out the military-industrial complex. Like, who's the only other, like, who other presidents talked about the military-industrial complex? You've got Trump, and then you've got a warning that Roosevelt left when he was leaving office. It was Roosevelt, right?
FDR.
Was it? Yeah. When he was leaving office, he talked about right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think he was like, as he was like, it was very well addressed. I think he talked like I want to say it was him, but like brought up the dangers of like, hey, just be aware that now we've got this big, massive military-industrial complex, and so want to keep getting fed. And sure enough, keeps getting fed with these foreign wars and things like that. And it's
the American empire needs to be. Needs to be funded. It's exactly what Ron Paul said. It was like, we cannot have this empire and have the American welfare pay for it. You're just like, it's imploding. And it's they need to stop, and we need to be fiscally responsible and take down the debt. I had somebody tell me that the debt wasn't real. I'm like, what? I can't. Yeah, somebody. I was just like,
I bet their credit score is terrible.
I might have been joking though. I just like, I didn't. I was so set back from it. I was like, please be joking. And so I moved on.
Right. That's like when someone says the Holocaust didn't happen. I'm like, should I even keep talking to you?
Yeah.
Like, are you worth even engaging in? Probably not at this point.
I was just at that point. I think we were talking about, because honestly, on the other podcasts I do, it's a movie show. Plug
it.
Oh well, we're the Average Joe Movie Show. We're a show, get drunk and talk about movies. We got myself, Zach Bennett, and Andrew Brown. They do it once a month now, since movies haven't really been coming out lately. But Godzilla vs. Kong is going to save us.
Dude, I saw that trailer. It looks amazing.
Dude, I can't wait.
It looks fantastic. I'd go to theaters for that one.
Dude, I'm going to IMAX as soon as it comes out. So I'll make the ultimate sacrifice and get all their COVID. I'll keep it. I'll keep it within myself as long as you're just watching this movie.
I'll take your COVID and I'll keep it. Let me see Kong beat up a lizard.
Yeah, right. But we have conversations about politics and stuff like that, and it's nothing like we don't think that we're like I'm right, they're right kind of thing. We just we talk about the military industrial complex and how it's just like, oh my god, dude, like we can't, like we all came to the conclusion like this can't survive under the uh current trajectory it's going. Like it's getting much worse, and it's only multiplying by every year. Just like we're about to spend $2 trillion, and Biden's been in office for 10 days. Like I'm just like, bro, I can't. And Trump, Trump went, a lot of the GOP is just like, yeah, when you spend $8 to $10 trillion in 4 years, like that's almost as much as Obama did in 8 years. Like that's the trajectory that you're going when it comes to where the debt's going, how much power the president has, those executive orders that are this stacked this high. Like it's in a bad place. Like you don't have to know about a lot about politics to understand that things are shit right now. Like it's or on their way to. Like people
Right.
understand that now.
People are good at identifying. We're good at identifying problems, but we're shitty at solving them. Because a lot of times we find a problem. Okay, this problem's caused by government. Okay, well, let's get more government to fix it. Like what?
The government knows the problem, and the government has the solution.
Right. Well, it comes down like the student loan thing for sure. It's like, okay, well, the government needs to forgive all these loans. Well, the government shouldn't have been making all these massive unsecured loans in the first place. That's the reason college tuition is so jacked up high, is because you have these guaranteed federal loans to students who apply for them. Colleges are like, oh, okay, well, I can charge whatever I want because loans are guaranteed to students, so they keep jacking up the prices. And then they don't have to compete for your money, so they get shittier professors that end up teaching bullshit neo-Marxism to people. And now we've got an entire Bernie movement that thinks that socialism and wealth redistribution is the way to go for the United States. Yeah. Like give me some hope, Matt. Give me some hope, man. I'm getting black pills.
The hope is that it's like you said, the people in the back are the ones that speak the loudest. Like, but there's a lot more people in the middle there. That right. I think that once it draws closer and closer to oh, this is going to become like they're threatening. Like the right wants to fearmonger like they usually do, and be like, this is going to be Venezuela. This is what it's going to be like, or what have you. I'm just like, well, it's going to be bad, but I don't think it'll ever be that bad.
And that's where they lose moderate people. It's like, okay, like you go straight to the most extreme circumstance. Like we're talking about like tech censorship. If you go immediately to, okay, well, Twitter kick Trump off for violating their terms of use or just for being someone they don't like. Either way, it doesn't matter. They're a private company. But if you go straight from, well, if they can do that, then that's, it's going to be purely propaganda and then all media control. It's going to be like China. It's like, no, it's not going to jump straight to that. No, what you need to do is make an argument that lines up with what's realistic and what may happen within someone's lifetime. We're not going to see Chinese communism in the United States while you and I are alive. God, I hope not. That'd be a plot twist. And Shyamalan
I would not stay alive much longer if that would happen.
It would. Yeah, we wouldn't make it long in that kind of environment. Yeah. But then so when it comes to the free speech thing, I was listening to Ira Glazer, I think is how you say his name. He used to be head of the ACLU, and he was on Rogan's podcast recently again. He's talking about how whenever someone talks to him about censoring hate speech or creating a category of speech that's hateful that needs to be censored by universities or private institutions or anyone, there's a situation where you have to think, well, who has the majority power in these situations? Okay, so if we decide that, like there was an example he gave, I can't remember what university they were from. Basically, you had a group of advocates who were saying that they're Zionists. They were Zionists who wanted a university to change some of the rule and censor certain speech that they found to be offensive and hateful. The university complied. And then so they created like this hate speech panel where they would make different decisions about what speech was good and what wasn't. The issue is, as soon as you advocate for speech to be censored, like you're no longer going to be the ones that control what speech is censored and what isn't. It's going to go off to another panel of people. And especially in a government like the United States, where you're constantly, at least should be constantly cycling people in and out of power, at least at the executive office, you obviously are, then let's say the person that, do you really want someone like Trump to be able to decide what speech is free and what's not? Like, do you want to give him that kind of power? Then don't give it to
Yeah.
anyone now, because someone worse than Trump could come up later. And this happened
Yeah.
to the Zionists. The Zionists wanted to create this censored speech. They created a panel that censored their speech, but then years went by, not even that long even, and then another group came in and wanted to censor the Zionists, because now they said, well, their speech is hateful now. And then they got censored. Their own legislation and their own rules they put in place to censor other people fired back on them. And so when I say things like, I don't want the government to have this power, it's not because I don't think that good can be done with it. It's that I know bad will be done with it.
They will fuck it up.
They will find a way to manipulate it and turn it against the American people, or in some kind of way. I mean, it's not even necessarily as malicious as trying to hurt the American people. I don't think politicians are all getting into it to be evil and line in their pockets, but we have to recognize the reality is that career politicians are very, very comfortable. People will do a lot to stay in power and stay comfortable. And having that power on top of being comfortable too, is to be someone in the United States government, it's intoxicating for a lot of people. So we have, that's why there's term limits. You got to cycle them out before they turn sour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. And also, like, you're working behind the curve when, like, say you're a congressman, and a bill comes up to you, and it's this fucking big. You know, you got a stack of papers this high. Like, how am I
So what
going to
happened
read
with this last stimulus bill? They set on almost 6,000 pages on the congressman's desk and congresswoman's desk hours before there's just a vote on it. Yeah, 5 hours before there's a vote. You have to read 1,000 pages an hour over that. It was like 5,367 pages, something like that. Some absurd number. So not only do you have to go through and read all of it, you have to comprehend it and think about it and see how it's going to factor into the big picture and think about long-term consequences. No. So what happens is you vote along party lines. That's why nothing ever happens, because it's all just a shift of power from red to blue, red to blue. But you know what happens when they shift power back and forth? We get less and less power as people. As American citizens, we're the ones that end up losing out on this, because while they're fighting their power battles in Mount Olympus, we're fighting each other for the scraps that get left behind.
Yeah, exactly. Like the power is being distributed. It's all the same coin. It was like, you get this coin, you know, you get it. All of us, we get none of it. We're like, nope. So and also when you talk about the omnibus bill, it was, I like how just people make shit up too, like just to prove their point. Like they just think that that's right. Like you ever get those on your post? You're just like,
every day.
This long response of just shit they made up. I just like, I had somebody do that to me about the omnibus bill. They're like, they just thought that that's how the government worked.
The omnibus bill? Was it omnibus or stimulus bill?
Omnibus.
It sounds way cooler.
Yeah. So the omnibus bill, omnibus bill,
the struggle bus bill,
was their entire, like, let's just say budget, lack of a better term, like budget for the next either year or several years.
It was a budget bill, yeah. They're trying to tie stuff into it. Yeah.
And all that stuff that I posted a video about Trump, just like, oh, we got people going to Egypt, money going here, but America gets $600. I'm just like, good on you, dude. You did the right thing on exposing what this bill is. And I got flooded with a bunch of just anti-Trump people. They're like, well, they had 2 separate votes, right? I'm like, no, they didn't. They're like, yes, they did. I was like, that's not how politics work. They can stack bills into one thing. I promise you.
They don't vote each individual. They should vote on each individual thing, but no, they pack it into one giant package and then put something desperate like American relief involved in it. So anyone that votes against it, even if it's for a good reason, saying like, hey, we shouldn't be sending millions of dollars overseas when we can't send money to our own people. But someone says that, they're like, oh, well, you're against the people because you won't just pass the bill, because you want to delay this. Oh, you don't care about the people at all. And it's just so ass backwards.
That it is. And like, you want to, you give it enough time so where at least the American people can't read it. The governor, or not the governors, the Congress people can't read it either. Like, I think a lot of the dirty work is done in that house. Like the House of Representatives are some crooked ass people. You know, there's so many of them, and they have these little committees and their little cliques as well. It's just like that. That's why I was just like, why are we giving like AOC and like all those are the people that get the most power? It's like, you're in such a small district in New York, and yet you have all this influence. It's like being a porn Instagrammer. Like, it's just like, how do you have all this influence?
Well, you just said she's good at social media.
Yeah.
She's good at
So
tapping into like that support network. And you know what? When I first saw she got elected and beat the incumbent Democrat, I'm like, all right, dope. Got someone young, some fresh blood in there. That's good potential. And
yeah.
then of course it was a moron. And I'm like, oh no, this makes things so much worse.
No,
Oh,
Kevin. No.
it's like you start talking to someone like you find attractive at a bar and you're like, oh, you know, you're very pretty. You hit it off a little bit. She said something just stupid, and you're like, oh no, you're a moron.
Okay. I gotta go get a beer. You want one? No? Cool.
Shots.
Like, I need a blackout now.
I'm gonna need a Green New Deal on this one.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, like for some reason that big influence has some sort of power. Like when she was talking about the Green New Deal, I was flabbergasted of just like, what the fuck?
Well, you don't want to stop flying commercial airplanes, or you don't want to limit.
You want a bridge?
You don't want to limit cow farts.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh,
well, it goes down to like we are great at identifying problems, but we have the shittiest solutions for them. So like we need to go back further than 5 years and find out what the actual source of these problems are. I mean, again, I compare it to putting a bandage over an arterial bleed. Till you clamp that bad boy down, just gonna keep piling on more and more gas. And keep bleeding through. That's what's happening with the American people. We are bleeding through these bullshit bandages government keeps slapping on when they're the ones that cut our wrists in the first place.
Yep.
And no one's actually going in and clamping down that artery and doing the hard things that take longer to do, because we want our immediate gratification. We want the immediate comfort. We want to believe these empty promises. We want our team to win.
Yeah.
We want to be validated in the court of public opinion. We want our team to be the one in power, because that gives us power. It gives us social power. Like every you're going to see it. You see it every election cycle. You know, Republicans are in power. It's like, oh, you dumb liberals, ha ha ha. And then now vice versa. It's, oh, you fucking racist. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, that one
my president season 2 is on right now.
Right? Oh, it's just and the joy of being someone in the middle during these times too is like, on one hand, it's incredibly frustrating and annoying because like the truth is just right there. No one gives a fuck. But on the other hand, like it's amusing as hell seeing like these people that hate each other so much doing the exact same shit back and forth. The whataboutism alone is just absolutely infuriating and amusing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, my president just did this. Well, Trump did this. Yeah, well, it was bad then too, Bofo. It's bad now when Biden does it. It's bad. Bad is bad, y'all.
Yeah. Just because your guy did something bad doesn't mean this guy can't do something equally as bad. Like,
right? Like be better. Rise above. If you're gonna and I can't wait to see these. I'm already starting to see some of them, but like the defenses of Biden. I was like, well, Trump did this. I'm like, you spent 4 years just saying he was the most vile human on earth, and now the dude you voted for did the same thing, and now you're trying to justify it by saying, oh, it's fine, he did it. You're debasing all of the American people and American politics in general. Like, this is an embarrassing fucking country right now, and it's because of all of us.
Yeah, it lacks conviction, and I think that's, you know, you'll see it because they represent themselves with a party instead of their morals. Like the party was just like, oh yeah, their morals are this, and then those morals change, and they're like, well, I don't, you know, they think it'd probably be too hard to just kind of stand the ground because they don't want to go to the other side, so they're like, yeah, I'll change it, you know. And I'm just like, it's upsetting. It really is.
And then when they finally do change it, it's only because their entire voter base has changed their mind. They have to appeal to those people. Like Obama was a traditional marriage guy until he got into like he voted for like preserving traditional marriage in the past. Then became president, and all of a sudden now everything's unicorns and rainbows. It's like look at your voting record. Like 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was against gay marriage. Like recently, not that long ago. And now she's the champion of equal rights everywhere. It's like, okay, on the one hand, yes, people can change their mind as more evidence comes out, for sure. But
when they blatantly say no,
but look at the patterns. Like, look at where the popular support is. Like, you can, it's again, the American people are not nearly as dumb as we're being treated. Like, individuals are very smart. Groups are stupid.
2 or more is enough for me.
That's why I limited it to 2 as often as I can. As soon as a third person gets in here, I'm like, I'm done. I want to burn stuff. Let's just mob everything.
The only thing more I have is Bush, and I'm about to make it 0. I'm just like, when 2 people get together that I don't agree with, or not even that I don't agree with, that they just have something stupid to say. Like, I could totally be like, somebody says something to me, I'm like, all right, I don't really get that, but okay. But if they say something like you know, do the Louis C.K. joke. It was like people from Phoenix are Phoenicians, you know, like that's stupid. Just shut up, shut the fuck up. You know, like that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. But it's I can't being a libertarian, and even so, like I'm not a tribe to libertarian like leaders like Joe Jorgensen. Like I liked a lot of her policies, but there's also things that her social media accounts weren't my favorite. I don't know if that was her. Didn't seem like
Across
it
the
was her.
Libertarian Party, like the social media is lacking there. We had so many great opportunities to really advertise the party so much better, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
pandering involved there too. Even some like the official Libertarian Party Twitter account, there's a lot of pandering with that one because they would say
Oh,
things.
okay.
They would talk about how bad the lockdowns and stuff were, but then they'd be like, "Oh, well, they follow all the guidelines they tell you to anyway." It's like, well, pick one, bro. Is it liberty or is
Yeah.
it complacency? Which one are you advertising here? Because the people, this is your time to shine, where we're having these actual authority. Like America's never been more authoritarian than it is right now. Now's your
Yeah,
time to
exactly.
start really preaching the liberty movement, and you're just kind of like, oh, we'll march with this group, but condemn this group. It's like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
you're not consistent. You're not sticking up for the principles. The reason I fell into the Libertarian Party is because it represented my principles better than any other party. I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
libertarian
Oh,
because I joined the party. I joined the party because I agree with libertarian ideals.
yeah, exactly. Leave me alone and I'll leave you alone, bro.
Right?
You know,
Right.
like,
Libertarians diligently plotting to take over the world to leave you alone.
yeah, exactly. And that's all I ever wanted is like, listen, I don't want to, you know, a lot of people don't even want to be talked to, like, let alone get told what to do. You know, the government's not there to babysit you. The government is there to enforce. Like, he punched me in the face, get him, you know, or what have you, or he stole my stuff. Get the government to give it back to me, or I could get it, but I don't want to, you don't want to do that route, But it's just like that's in the simplest form the government what should be doing, like it should be
Protect the
maintaining that kind
citizens.
of peace,
Right.
rather
Protecting us
than
from threats, foreign and domestic.
yeah, exactly. It's when I saw Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Kamala, whatever,
I think it's Kamala.
Kamala Harris, take their oath. I'm just like,
I wanted to make sure
when
I say
they
her name
said,
right. That way when I criticize her, no one can take it away from me.
yeah, there you go.
Like, no. I know her name right. Trust me, I'm researching this. I know.
I already had it enunciated 12 times. And like when they were doing the oath and they said foreign and domestic, it just was like, it made me mad because you could just tell in their voice, I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. They're gonna do things their way, and they're gonna just shit on the Constitution. So that's all they're gonna do.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing for me is like it's just the foreign wars. Like that's the one I just can't get over anyone being cool with at all because
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
blatantly like it's not it. Okay, protecting us from threats, foreign and domestic. Well, right now you're the biggest authoritarian threat to liberty is the government itself, but then foreign. You're actively making the world way less safe with these regime change wars, where you create power vacuums, where you just start flooding money into these rebels, like say Al Qaeda. Oh, you're fighting Russia? Dope. Here's a bunch of money, a bunch of Stinger missiles. You're going to send CIA agents over to help you beat them. Okay, cool. Oh, now we don't have a common enemy anymore. Oh, now we're the bad guys. Oh, we taught you how to do all these things, and you have all this stuff. Like you're shooting Stingers at our own stuff now, like our missiles back at us. This happens repeatedly. Like it was like I told you before we started recording. Like Dave Smith, he says, if you want to know who America's next enemy is, look at who we're funding right now. We created ISIS. We left power vacuums in the Middle East. All these rebel groups we were giving money to all ended up turning on us real quick because you know what happens when you bomb a bunch of people indiscriminately for a long time and kill a bunch of innocents with robots that are flying? The people aren't gonna like you. You're radicalizing people. Again, like all of these people who are saying peace and unity and safety, you're the ones actively radicalizing people, whether it be by pulling them into echo chambers, by not letting them speak in public forums, or by actively bombing the Middle East and trying to get regime change wars in there because we have no economy ever since the dollar's been moved from the gold standard. Now it's all petrodollar. We have to have oil. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, but fracking is bad, but we need the oil, so we're going to invade other countries to get it. It's like, what the actual fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Guess who's paying for it?
Us.
We are. Like,
and all the innocent lives. Well, and in very, very real terms, the people that are paying for it with their lives are the people that are innocent overseas. And our soldiers that are going over there to die for these pointless regime change wars that don't make us safer.
Yeah. And people defend it too, like a lot of neoconservatives. Like,
dude, you have neoliberals now too.
I had a hardcore Democrat come out to me and just like and saying we shouldn't have. Last time we were isolationists, we got bombed. I'm just, he's talking about Pearl Harbor. I was just like, we nuked them and they didn't do it again. Like we armed and neutral. I like that term. What George Orwell said, armed and neutral. Like if you fuck with us, like that's all there is to it. Like
and both of those wars we got fucked with directly. World War One, you had Lusitania sunk by a German U-boat. Then you had World War II. We got directly bombed. The only attack on U.S. soil from a foreign country. Yeah. And so yeah, of course we're going to ramp up for that. Yeah, of course. But then we should not be getting the meddling in the Middle East is not about safety. It's not about it's about regime change. It's about exerting our power over different areas. And you know what happens? No one gets any power there except the bad guys that we armed in the first place. Because at that point they were good guys. I did air quotes with that for the audio listeners.
Yeah, right. Like even after 9/11, like they were like saying, that a lot of they would trying to think of the term, like having 5 sentences in one. But after 9/11, it wasn't a country that bombed us. That wasn't a country that stole our planes. It was a bunch of fucking thugs that were radicalized by us, and they were like, nah. We're gonna take you out this way, and that whole terrorism thing started, and
that was an even better excuse to take more power away from more American people, because then you have the Patriot Act coming into play, and they always title these things with these nice names that sound so good. Oh, the Patriot Act. You got to be for the Patriot Act. You're a patriot, right? Yeah, it's like no. What's the Patriot Act doing? Oh, it's spying on American citizens who are innocent and totally just blowing through the whole illegal search and seizure amendment thing we have. Just doing whatever they want, doing that thing that JFK was talking about, and probably why he got killed in the first place, saying that, hey, we have clandestine agencies that have limitless power that should not have limitless power. Then what happened? They probably killed him. They probably killed him. They're like, oh, I don't like this guy. No. Okay,
we're not confirming this, but it's suspicious.
Oh, it looks super sketch. And like, as I'm saying, like, I'm pretty sure the CIA killed JFK. I'm not suicidal. I love my life. I get into a car accident or something in the next couple of days, it's sus. Check it out. Dig into it. It's probably it's probably gonna smell like Clinton.
It's gonna smell like FedEx and Clinton.
That's
FedEx had nothing to do with any of that stuff.
It'd be the post office.
Yeah, but it's things are changing. Things are going back to the way they want it to be, which is us, the American people, kind of blinded by what's going on under wraps. Like now Trump's gone. I don't see anybody really under the microscope anymore. Like they're just the microscope has gone, because all Biden is talking about the Converse shoes and his rearranged office and what he has for dinner or what have you. That's the news media nowadays. Like it's harder to come by. But hopefully what they did with Trump made them was a blessing. There's a silver lining in that, is that they will not let him up. They were like, all right, so we kind of fucked up. We're gonna actually really start doing the things that we promised, rather than because everything's recorded now. Everything is very easily accessible. So especially on YouTube and anybody's phone. So
right.
But I'm just hoping that the people who had that same animosity towards that type of power, or even just that human, uses that same amount of drive to the next person. Because if you do that, people, if you hold them accountable, and then they'll stop doing things that fucking suck,
I think what we're doing here is the most important thing. So we talked about how usually it's the extremes on both sides that have the loudest voices. The ones the moderates don't speak up that much. Well, hear your moderates speaking up. Here's the chance to push back against all of that. And it's never going to get as much traction because it's not inflammatory necessarily. Unless someone else on the left doesn't like it, but it's not
violence.
Rational conversation. You can't get a quick 5-second soundbite out of this that makes you sound racist. I mean, you might be able to.
Yeah.
The R word thing, that one might come back to haunt me. But
you just hear me say retarded, and I'm just like, yeah, retarded.
I'll be like, man, that was retarded. I should not have said that.
We're done.
That's all they need. Just oh, he said that. Cool. Finally got him.
Yeah, and disclaimer to for me, it's just like like I only look at politics as conceptually, and when I look at things that are happening, and uh, it makes me just like not want to vote for anybody. Like it made me just sides. That's what made me lean towards just. I voted for SpongeBob SquarePants in 2008. Like that's who I voted for. Like I obviously didn't trust any of these people. Like even when I was in high school. Like, and I think a lot of people are exactly the same. But that whole lesser of two evils thing rears its ugly head every 4 years, and they're forced to decide. Their hands is forced somewhere rather than trying to actually get somebody different. I would always get the whole, oh, libertarians don't have that much movement. I was like, revolutions don't happen in a day, my man. Like we can,
right?
Just come on down. Like, but then election day happens, and then my vote counted for some reason because they lost. I don't know. So
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting how third-party voters always get to vote twice. It's either
yeah,
you either
exactly.
helped the one they don't want to get in, or you hurt the one by not. Yeah. It's always, it all depends, and it's so frustrating. Like you said, lesser of two evils voting. Like that's what's gotten us into this. We've done this lesser of two evils voting for decades, and look where we are. Why would
Yeah.
we keep doing that? I mean, it's literally the definition of insanity. We
Yep.
keep
Exactly.
on just saying, well, the other guy has no chance, so I'm gonna take the evil I can stomach. Well, the evil you can stomach is the evil creating all of this. Like
Yeah.
the evils we can stomach are the ones that got us into all these messes. They're the ones that got these foreign regime change wars going. They're the ones that are sending, our brothers and sisters off to die on foreign soil. That makes us less safe. They're the ones that make the laws that disproportionately affect Black and brown people. They're the ones
Yeah.
that set up these crony capitalists to keep on making billions and billions of dollars off the American back, and they're just lying in their pockets, the taxpayers, through lobbyists the entire time. They don't care about us. And I think we
The
need to
biggest
start caring
oppression.
about each other more
Yeah.
too. Yeah, we need to care about each other enough to be like, hey, we've got a common enemy, and it's not each other. Like
Yeah.
if I could win every single discussion I get into on Facebook and sway every single person to my opinion, what's going to change? Nothing. Like nothing's going to actually happen with that.
Yeah.
It's not about me spreading my ideology, because I don't care if you want to register Libertarian or not. I don't care. I just want you to vote smartly. I want you to
Yeah.
say, hey, I want you to recognize that there's a
Vote with
problem
conviction.
and actually talk about ways to fix it, instead of just saying, well, the problem is here and it's your fault. Well, no, the problem is everyone's fault, and we all have to be responsible for fixing it.
Yeah.
And I think we
And
do that by having conversations like this.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not, you come into a mutual ground with ideas, not like rather than forcible. You're like, nope, this is it. Like you come in with ideas rather than facts. Like, well, you could throw in facts to kind of confirm your I wouldn't even call it a bias. It's just like, well, I guess
I share facts that I follow. So here are the facts that caused me to have this opinion, and I share that.
yeah. Yeah, it made me think the way that I do, and they'll throw in facts that made me think the way they do. It might change my mind.
Right.
I'm always trying to be open, but yeah, there's some instances where you just can't argue with people because they won't argue with facts. They'll just attack you as a person. I'm just like, all
Right.
right, if you want me to troll you, I'm very good at it, but I would choose to just have like an actual conversation in person. Like on Facebook, I'm not.
It's not a good
you're
way
way
to
better
communicate.
than I am. I'm not a Facebook talking kind of guy. I am face to face. Like if because I can get my inflections, my context in and out. And I can actually handle a lot of my far left leaning friends into a conversation because I post some things that are you know, things that they really don't like. So, but they won't, they respect me. I respect them too. I'm like, they would say something I can be like, I think that's fucking stupid, but I'm not gonna walk into the conversation and be like, yep, I'm involving myself now. It's just, it gets me
Yeah.
nowhere. It gets the conversation nowhere. Like unless they're attacking somebody, and then I would totally jump in. That's when trolling is a great thing. It's like if somebody is attacking one other person, oh, it's so much fun. So
I have to fight the urge to troll so hard, because like I've got all of a sudden, like I started getting feedback, people like saying like, oh, I like the way you moderate your posts. Like what I like about, I mean, communicating on social media is extremely limited because it's all text. But what I like
yeah,
about it is, like, if I'm having a discussion on Facebook, if I'm actually engaging with someone, then there's at least, or at least I think there's a certain like part, tiny amount of mutual respect involved. We're having an actual discussion where I'm like, hey, we'll share your ideas, share your opinions, share the facts you base your opinions on. But in that texting kind of format, it gives me a chance to like actually read through what they talked about, go through some of the data myself, think about it a little bit, and reply back in like an hour or two, whatever. But it's still not as effective as person to person, because like you said, like people will say things behind a keyboard they would never say to your face. And
Oh yeah.
I think that breaks down communication so much, because you just get these keyboard warriors. You get so angry so quick, and like we need to realize, like when I come at somebody, so to speak, I make it very clear that I am attacking their idea, not them as a person.
Yeah.
And that's something that we all get very defensive, then we get very aggressive. We always attack the person, not the idea. Like we need to stop doing that. We need to stop, because people have dumb ideas. I have dumb ideas all the time, you know?
I'm gonna jump off this roof, very drunk. That's stupid. I'm gonna
Right?
do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna start a
You know?
podcast talking about, mental health and politics, and I'm gonna say the retard word on it. Yeah, I have dumb ideas all the time. People do stupid
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be able to evolve from that, and realize that we're dynamic. You should not be the same person you were 5 years ago. You need to be evolving and changing, and you're not going to do that from behind a keyboard when you're angry constantly.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't. It doesn't get anybody anywhere. It just makes things. It just perpetuates the
People get
problem.
angry, you get mad, and you're angry, and that anger spreads to those around you, and you find
Mm-hmm.
scapegoats for it. Like the next target of opportunity that walks by, you exert that anger, because you're not getting any kind of closure or satisfaction from it at the end of the day. Everyone has to have the last word, and it gets petty so fast.
Oh gosh. Yeah. It's. I think I became when I get into conversations with people on Facebook about movies, like when that Cuties movie came out, oh, I jumped all over it. I jumped all over that movie. I was just like, people did the same thing. They had a scene, super risque, super offensive, of course, to anybody who would think that the child thing was crazy. And I was just like, well, let's take a look at this movie as a whole. And I watched the whole movie, and I went straight to all those political. I think I went to Reason.com, and they posted about it, and they were just, it was just a bunch of mostly conservatives, of course. It was a conservative cancel culture at that point. And I was just like, listen, if you haven't, I usually ask them, have you seen the movie? And they're like, no, I won't watch that trash just by this one scene. I was like, did you watch the rest of the scene? They're like, no. I'm just like, well, you have no frame of reference. Like, I understand that this is bad, but also, like maybe they're trying to have a message here that you're not seeing. I'm like, nope, that means it's just child porn. That's what it is. And then I would just like reference like 8th grade, American Beauty. That's my boy. Oh gosh. Like, I watched that recently, and literally a 12, I think it was like a 12-year-old was having sex with like an adult teacher. And they're like, but you don't do this, but you do this. Right. And I that's what I do on Facebook. I was like, I see the hypocrisy. I find a way to, to see it completely. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And that's a lot of fun to do. But it's, outside of that, like, I'm not going to attack them as a character. I'm not going to think that they're a fucking idiot as well. I just like, well, let's just see. I attack their hypocrisy. That's my thing. I attack their, people are like, oh, we should save the earth. I care about the earth so much to just one day. That's all they do. And then the rest of their 364 days, they're just shitting on it. So I'm just like, I don't.
Or they change their profile picture and have like a band across it or around it, saying like, "Oh, support to this." Or they change it to "Paris got bombed" or whatever. It's like, "Oh, change to a French flag." It's like, I love Anthony Jeselnik's stand-up based around like whenever tragedies happen. Like whenever someone's like thoughts and prayers, it's like whenever someone says thoughts and prayers, like what they're really saying is, "Don't forget about me. I'm still here, guys. Pay attention to me. Look how sad I am." And it's just, you see it, and there is a way that you can show support for something without virtue signaling.
Yeah.
And like, exactly. I don't think I have to change my profile to a black square for you to realize that I think that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, exactly.
I think every single human being should have the exact same rights and opportunities as others.
Yeah.
You know, I
No
want
matter what color.
I want equal opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
So, Jesus, how long has it been? It's almost been 2 hours. Look at that.
We're going on 2 hours, yeah, like an hour
Oh,
45. But
yeah.
anyway, but dude,
Yeah,
like I said,
the
and I
Buccaneer
want,
shooter.
yeah, the Buccaneer shirt. It's been, oh, I love that shirt so much. You should sell those. Just buy a bunch of Brady,
Yeah.
like New
I,
England Brady
I,
shirts and just
I
put
sell
tape
these at
over it.
fanatics.org.
Yeah, but spell fanatics with two C's. Make up for the only one in your Buccaneers.
Exactly. You got to spell Buccaneers as well as I did.
Which is
So,
totally wrong. I love it. Well,
no.
dude, thank you for coming on here and talking with me, man. And
No problem.
if you're,
I feel like there's so much more to talk about. Like
there it is. You'll be back on.
All right. I don't want to steer anybody away. I'm like, that guy's a fucking asshole. I'm like, thank you.
The trolling you is loving it. Well, hey, pay attention in the comments. Maybe some trolling there. For the most part, my audience is mostly my friends, so it doesn't get very hostile.
Yeah,
but
hey,
we'll see.
Well, I'll be posting on mine, so let's see. We'll see how they go.
Dude, I can't wait for the first time I get hate mail from a stranger. I keep hoping. I keep like, hey, is this the one we talked about controversial stuff here? Is this the one? Am I gonna get hate mail now? Like, look at my email. Like, no, everybody likes me still.
I
I
get a lot of people that are just like, you got some good posts on Facebook. I'm just like, come on. I want somebody to come at me, bro.
Right? I want some anger, some heat.
Face to face. Like,
I
want them to have the balls to come to my face and start talking. Like, and I would respect that, honestly. I wouldn't take it as like a threat or anything unless they were trying to kick my ass. But if they wanted to have an actual conversation with me, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna throw this out there right now. Anyone watching or listening to this, if you disagree with what I'm talking about, come on the show. Let's talk about it. We'll have a conversation. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not going to be me trying to score on you. Like, let's just share our ideas and the facts you get your opinions from. We'll talk about it, and then I'll get a chance. You know, in long form, you can express yourself, and I can tell you why you're wrong. Hopefully evolve and grow myself.
I respect your opinion, but it's wrong, and I hate you. So it's okay.
It's wrong, and you're dumb, and you smell like last year's JCPenney perfume samples.
Exactly.
So. Anyway, well, thank you, dude. Well, you're gonna plug your podcast again? I don't know
when that will be, but
it'll happen for sure. Plug your stuff before I do my little sign-off deal.
Yeah. So the main thing, Average Joe Movie Show, where we get drunk, talk about movies. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and also the Libertarian Podcast, Average Joe Libertarian Podcast. Same spots, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, everything. So
you got one episode up there where I do co-host. That was a fun one.
It was good. Oh God, it was good.
I do want to do more because like it seems like whenever I have a chance to talk with like other libertarians, like we spend most of the time like just shitting on the establishment and why everyone else is wrong. And so I really listening back on the first one, sometimes. Right? Well, because we're frustrated with the system, and that frustration comes out, and people can construe that as just attacking your ideas, your beliefs, and in a way, yeah, we kind of are, but in other ways, like it really is a very, very unifying kind of movement. I mean, the fact that I've got friends who were hardcore conservative and hardcore liberal that are all, proudly, displaying Joe Jorgensen signs. I think that shows that there is a lot of potential here to unite a lot of the moderates that don't feel represented. Because again, most of us moderate Americans are not represented in Congress, in the Senate, in the White House. And like we're the voices that we're the majority of the vote. We're the ones that need to have our voices. So I think the Libertarian Party is the platform for moderate people who are like, hey, I just want to live my life and not bother other people.
Yeah, exactly. That's I like people who think for themselves rather than being told what to think. That's the big thing that I always, promote is think for yourself, read through things. Like I didn't do so well in my FCAP. It doesn't mean I can't read through the lines of things. Understand that information is given to you, and it's okay to question it. It's okay to question science. That's why we know the Earth is round and not flat, and also it doesn't revolve around us. Believe the science, but also understand that there's always room for improvement. Jesus. Please.
Right. Well, that's the scientific process. Is having a theory and then trying your best to disprove it. So questioning science is the entire basis of science. So do it. Question everything. Talk about stuff you have questions about, and then share ideas, not anger and hate.
Yeah. Don't share feelings, please. They don't get you nowhere.
Are you telling everyone not to fall in love with you?
You can share them, but you gotta I'm married, so it's already, it's taken care of. So,
Oh, well.
hey, it's okay.
Thank you so much, everyone that's watching and listening to this. And like I said, for real, if you're someone that disagrees with me, no matter what, like I'm pretty sure I have a buddy that I'm going to talk to tomorrow for not this Thursday, but probably next Thursday's episode. And I don't really know him that well. He's someone on Facebook, like friend of a friend. And I'm pretty sure we're going to disagree on most things we talk about. But like I want to, like he's like, hey, he sent me a link for something. And we're talking about it. And he was like, hey, can I call you and talk about this for a minute? And I'm like, you want to come on the podcast and talk about it? So I think that's what I want to get out there. I want to get out the willingness to have these conversations, not to shut people up because I disagree with them. Because hey, maybe they bring some points to that I didn't know about. Because I'm not omnipotent. I don't know everything. I know very, very little. I research a lot, but even that, I'm still a person with another job that I'm doing stuff in, and I've got a life kind of that I'm trying to just have some fun with. Trying to live that bust life. But anyway, point is
COVID life now.
That's right. Yeah, I'm day 2 into who knows if I even have the energy to post this Thursday. But yeah, I'm day 2 into COVID.
That's what gets you.
Dude, it's like a week and 2 days before I would have gotten the second dose of the Moderna vaccine too. So I'm like, man, it's not good timing.
Yeah, right.
I'm a few weeks early. I might have been okay. Huh?
So you had your first shot?
I had the first shot January 6th.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I know.
You're fucking.
I know. I'm like, let's say something because I remember I have to get my second one for the Moderna vaccines like 28 days later, which was a great movie. Great movie.
You got too many coincidences on your vaccine.
I know, right? So like first I get my vaccine, then I January 6th. The coup.
COVID.
Oh yeah.
Bro, you are a zombie.
Dude, the entire day. I got back to the office after getting it. And I'm walking around. Like every time I held anything with my left hand, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel fine. I pick up my left hand, I drop it right away. That's where I got the injection. I'd be like, this is normal, right? Just messing with everyone.
Exactly.
Like I told someone like their brain smelled good and I was hungry. I'm full zombie with it for a minute. See, 28 days later, the theme continues.
It does. It's great.
All right. Well, speaking of beating a dead horse, I am going to finally log off the recording now. Thanks everyone for listening. Check it out. You can find Tyndall's Razor podcast on Apple, whatever their podcast app is, Spotify. I'm so good at talking. I should start a podcast. We're on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Castbox, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts at this point, we'll be there. And I don't know why I say we either. It's just me. I'll be there.
It's just me listening to me.
Right? Like I'm great talking to two people. If I'm talking to like just myself or like my imaginary audience, I just get super awkward. Like, even the voices in my head are like, bro, shut up. Anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and I'm glad the YouTube is finally picking up some momentum. It's been nice. So anyway, thanks everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and should I say stay woke? I want to say stay woke, but I feel that's too conspiratorial. I don't want to get any QAnon bullshit happening here. Whatever. Stay red pilled. All right, bye.